Why doesn't New World work? This game has some of the funnest MMO combat that I've ever played, especially in PvP. You have tons of different variety of weapons and abilities that you can use, and with the new patch coming in and big combat changes on the horizon, New World offers a ton of skill expression, especially in game modes like PvP. But when it comes down to it, this game has some fundamental issues that make enjoying all of this very difficult. Welcome on in, everybody. I hope you're all doing well, and today we're going to talk about why New World doesn't work and what areas it really struggles in and how Amazon could actually fix some of these problems. I'm going to start off with a little bit of my own story. So I've been playing New World since the game came out. I actually was quite involved in the betas about a year before the game actually released. Now fast forward to today, and the population that plays this game has dropped drastically since launch, losing about 95% of the player base they had on launch. Now of course no one expects the population to stay at the hype value, but yeah, New World has bled a ton of players, and I don't think it's because the game itself isn't fun to play. It's because this game suffers from some pretty critical design flaws that just push people away from it as time goes on. I'll talk about those reasons in just a moment, but what I want to iterate here is that as time goes on, because people are leaving for these reasons, the population of the game slowly gets lower. And we've got a whole bunch of different servers with a max population and characters tied to each server. So when people leave the game, what ends up happening is we've got a whole bunch of empty servers. This makes it very hard to partake in a whole bunch of different game modes that New World has to offer, especially things like Outpost Rush, getting constant wars to happen, and even just finding any open world PvP. So the first big thing that I think New World really struggles from is the fact that this game does not work if you're on an empty server. Just plain and simple, the game is not designed to function well if you don't have 700 or 800 people on the server at any given time. Now, whether New World is doing well or poorly, it doesn't matter. This will always be a problem because you'll have these fluctuating server numbers. Quite frankly, I think locking players to a server for how this game functions just doesn't make sense. I think it would be a lot better if players could move to any server in their given region, and then things like company ownership over a town would be tied to that specific town on a specific server. So a company could feel free to visit all the different servers they want, but that company itself can only own one town on one server. How the tax system would be sorted after this becomes really messy. Honestly, I'm not really sure what the solution is there, but quite frankly, people need to be able to switch servers a lot more frequently than we are right now. Another alternative would be to allow people to buy transfer tokens or just give people free transfer tokens so that they can switch servers as often as they want. That way they can keep the old system in place but still give people the freedom to move around so they can at least enjoy the game even if the server that they originally chose begins to die. And this not only solves the low pop server problem, but this could also solve a high pop server problem. If people are free to just move to whatever server they want, well, we wouldn't have one server that is pop locked all the time while every other server in the game is sitting at half capacity or less. New World has definitely struggled with various things since launch, but one of the consistently biggest issues that people have is lack of population on their server, and that definitely is causing people to leave the game. The next big problem that I think New World has struggled with since launch is not allowing you to progress your character through the game modes that you want, instead forcing you to partake in a certain game mode in order to continue progression. When the game first came out, everybody was grinding expertise at endgame, and this meant just killing bosses or collecting chests around the world. You weren't able to get meaningful expertise bumps from any other source, so this meant that people were locked into this very specific game mode in order to continue progressing. Then come the gypsums, which definitely were a step in the right direction, allowing you to get some expertise bumps from other activities, but then Amazon follows that up with umbral shards, making the 600 to 625 gear score grind only grindable through dungeons. Thank God in the new patch we're going to be able to get umbral shards from things like Outpost Rush, but quite frankly it's just not enough. The fact that you are so limited in different game modes to get these umbral shards is not good. This forces people to partake in content that they maybe otherwise wouldn't have wanted to do and completely devalues other types of content. One of the best things about an MMO like New World is that you have a lot of different options in what you actually want to do in game. You don't even have to kill anything your entire time playing the game, and you can progress your character entirely through crafting if you want to. That being said, that progression stops at endgame. This could be a big reason why people felt like once they hit level 60, the game felt empty and it was no longer fun, because of the complete lack of options of progression from that point on. I think this is an area where Amazon is improving, but they definitely need to be more receptive to the player base and listen to us when we say things like we would love umbral shards from open world PvP kills. Okay, that might just personally be me who wants that, but things like that allow you to progress your character with Umbral Shards just outside of OPR or doing a dungeon. And finally, I want to talk about time gating. Time gating is a big issue in this game. There's a lot of different game activities that have a cooldown on how often you can do them, like making certain endgame crafting materials and making orbs so that you can do the various expeditions or mutations. Initially, I think that this was a huge turnoff to the player base because there was no way to circumvent this time gate. Now, however, you are able to trade these orbs, and you could always trade those crafted materials, so I guess the idea of time gating isn't as bad as it used to be, but it's definitely something that is not liked by the player base, and Amazon needs to be really careful why they're time gating the various content in this game. They should never be time gating anything because they want it to just take longer to complete that content. They should only time gate things that actually make sense to time gate. I understand why some of the endgame crafting materials might make sense to time gate because it adds actual value to those materials because people can't just spam make them. But things like dungeons, on the other hand, quite frankly, I don't understand why there is a time gate. They added the circumvent so you can just buy the orbs from other players, but still, there is a time gate to the dungeons. So that is something that, I don't think is healthy for the game design and doesn't encourage players to partake in the different game modes that are time gated. And last but not least, let's talk about the bugs in New World. New World is an MMO. It's a new MMO, so there's going to be quite a few bugs in it. That being said, Amazon has actually been very aggressive in tackling the bugs that this game has. And as someone who's played MMOs where the companies were not aggressive in tackling those bugs, it feels really good. This is one area where I actually have to give a bit of praise to Amazon. This past February patch has nothing but bug fixes in it. Over 1,000 bug fixes. Well, and there is some combat changes that are going to make combat feel a lot better, but for the most part, it is just a bug fix patch. This is something that, as someone who played ESO for 7 years, I was begging ZeniMax to do, and they never did it. And New World is doing this in the first 6 months of its lifetime, so this is a huge step in the right direction for the game. That being said, Amazon's motivation to tackle bugs like this might have a lot to do with the fact that they've lost a lot of players up until this point. Hopefully this new patch can entice people who at least enjoyed the combat in this game to give it another shot and come back. And I want to end the video on that note. I think that New World definitely got off to a rocky start. After all the attention on release and then making quite a few big mistakes, Amazon definitely paid the price with their player base. That being said, I don't think that this game is going to die, and I don't think that it's going in the wrong direction right now. It really seems like Amazon is receptive to what the players are asking for, and they want to deliver on what the players want to see in their game. So, if anything, this piece of content, me posting this, is about getting that discussion started about what players want to see in the future of New World, and how we think those changes could help New World succeed and bring those players back. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Of course, I would love to hear what you think about New World, if you think it's going in the right or wrong direction, and what you think about the future of the game. If you guys enjoyed this content and you want to catch some live stuff from me, you can always give me a follow on Twitch. Give me a follow on Twitter if you want to keep up to date with what's going on with me. You can check out my website, pvpnewworld.com, for written guides to all of my builds, and of course it's got a lot of information on the game too. I feature the New World Top 5 Battles. If you or a friend has an awesome clip that you want to send in, you can send that to Kristofer at pvpnewworld.com. Best of luck to you guys. This show is sponsored by What the Fast. It's a VPN for gamers. They can give you better ping to your favorite games, especially if you have bad ping to start, and they're free to try. There's a link down below for you guys. And then last but not least, a massive thank you and shout out to all of my patrons on Patreon. Without you guys, I know I always say it, but I mean it. I could not do this job, so thank you so much for supporting the show. Thank you everybody just for tuning in and watching. As always, I hope you all enjoyed. Have a great night, everyone, and I'll see you next time.